Hey guys, I'm back for my next video, and today I wanted to do kind of one I've been planning for a while. Uh, Basically, just talking about making your transition easier. So it's obviously a very difficult process, and there are a lot of steps to it. It seems super daunting at the beginning, um, but you can make it easier than you might think. So I had 10 steps that I wanted to go over. This is the way that I did it. There are lots of ways to do it. For me, these are the things that made it easier on me. So step one, obviously, is the hardest one, I think, and that's figuring out whether or not you're transgendered. It's a very personal thing. Honestly, the rule of thumb kind of is if you're questioning it, you probably are. But there were a couple places that I went that were particularly helpful in helping me to figure out if I was or wasn't transgendered. The first is Reddit. Uh, Reddit has a great community. It's full of a lot of different types of trans people, and there are some great posts that kind of talk exactly about this topic. So I've linked to that below, and I would definitely read that. The second is a link that I found. Like a long-term study on transsexuals and what happens to them over the course of their lifespan if they decide not to transition. And I'll link that below as well. It's really pretty terrifying. So maybe terrifying isn't what you want to read, but for me, it was one of the things that I needed to read so I could kind of get my life straight and decide to actually transition. So once you figure that out, the next step is to find a therapist, which can be a really daunting task also. But there's kind of an easier way to go about it and make it a little bit more manageable. A lot of times when you first want to go see a therapist, you're not going to want to go in, dressed up. You probably haven't really even done that yet. So what I would recommend is finding a therapist online that you can go and talk to over Skype. So that's what I did. I found a therapist that was actually relatively cheap, and was able to do my first 3 months over Skype. So that's what that's one recommendation. Another one is to ask that doctor to find a doctor for HRT for you. So finding an HRT doctor can be really difficult sometimes, especially one that has experience with trans patients. So your doctor can actually do a lot of the legwork for you, which I think a lot of trans people don't even think to ask their therapists to do that for them. My doctor basically found, or my therapist basically found my doctor and helped me set up an appointment. So that was also super helpful. Step four concerns coming out. So after you've gotten on hormones, or maybe even before, I know these steps vary from person to person, but for me, my next step after getting on hormones was to start coming out to people. This was a really scary step. I'm sure it is for everybody. The one thing that I would recommend to make it a little bit easier on yourself is have the first person you come out to be someone you're almost 100% sure is going to be supportive of you. Don't necessarily just dive into telling everybody or telling all of your family members. Find somebody who can be your support system, one friend who you are pretty certain is going to be there for you. And if there's nobody really like that, then start out by telling people on the internet and develop your own support system online first. Um, if you're really scared of doing it, one way to kind of ease that is to write a letter first. Do this first. Write the letter first, and then have a few drinks and press the send button. That might be the cowardly approach, but that's what I did. I needed just a little bit of liquid courage to get me over the hump to press the send button on the email that I had already written. Um, Step number five. So after you've come out to one person, that person can be a huge help in helping you to come out to others. So don't feel like you have to go it alone every single time. Uh, Use your support system that you've started to build from the beginning to help you to come out to other people, and choose the order in which you come out to people in a wise way, because it will make it easier or more difficult on you depending on who you tell first. So for me, I tried to tell people that I thought would be supportive first, and I think that was a good strategy. I would definitely recommend it. Step number six is more of a logistical thing, and that's hair removal. So it can be kind of a scary thing to contact a hair removal place and tell them you want to get your beard removed. Um, you don't really need to tell them you're trans if you're not ready to. It's not really any of their business. They're not going to ask you generally. I'm sure there are maybe a few instances of that happening, but uh, if you don't say anything, they're probably not going to ask. Some men just remove their beards because they don't want to shave anymore. So don't feel like you are obligated to tell them or talk to them about it if that's something that's going to make you scared or is going to deter you from moving forward with laser hair removal. Also, look on Groupon and Living Social. They have laser hair removal deals like maybe once or twice a week, so you can pretty much do all of your laser hair stuff on Groupons and Living Social deals. Uh, Definitely do that. Don't ever buy a laser hair removal package without getting a Groupon or Living Social deal first. Step number 7, buying a wig and clothes and makeup. So some people will say, oh, just go out to the store and buy these things, but that can be a really scary thing, especially when you're first beginning your transition. You haven't really ever, uh, dressed up. Buy them online. It just makes it a lot easier. If you're underage and you don't want your parents to know that you're doing this, you can go to the post office and get a PO box. I'm pretty sure any age can do it, and then just ship things from online to the PO box. I think that's definitely what I would have done if I had the strength to begin transitioning when I was a teenager. So Zappos is a great site for that. They have a huge selection of clothes, pretty much anything, and they have 1-day delivery, I think, so it works really well. They also have shoe sizes that run pretty large, like up to 12, I think, or 14 even in some cases, women's. Also, you can buy a wig online, so I'll link to the place where I got my first wig. It was cheap and it looked good. I would recommend going with a wig that has bangs. They look more feminine, I think. Um, and I'll try and link to one similar to the one that I used to have that I really liked. Step number 8 is about going out dressed up for the first time. Um, if you're lucky and your transition is beginning to fall somewhere around Halloween, do it on Halloween. It can be a really great icebreaker. If some of your friends already know and you go out dressed up on Halloween, um, it can kind of put you in a position where at least you know what it's like to be out like that, and that'll make it easier when you really start going out dressed or start to go part-time or even full-time. Uh, Step 9, the next step after going out on Halloween, or the first step if you're doing this not around Halloween, is go out your first time to a gay bar. They're gonna be, it's not gonna be a place where you'll be assaulted or called names usually. So they're usually safe places, and that's I think one of the best strategies for going out the first time. And step 10 is finding a voice coach online and doing voice practice from early on. You don't have to find, a speech therapist that's local. You can find one that's online, and generally they're pretty cheap. So I've linked to that as well. Uh, that's basically it for the 10 easy ones. The next ones are just coming out to everybody else and then going part-time or full-time and then surgery if that's what you're planning. Um, but that's kind of how I've so far hacked my transition to make it a little bit easier on myself, and it's kind of worked pretty well. I guess the biggest thing is really just break it up into as many little steps as you need to. Even if they're tiny, tiny little baby steps, at least you'll feel like you're progressing, and eventually you'll look back at all these tiny little steps, and they'll have added up to this gigantic change, and you'll wonder how that happened. So anyway, I'll do another video soon. Bye, guys.